the second question comes from a lady that I will call Anita for purposes of confidentiality. Hey, Mr. Leopard, I have a problem. I am always abusing, insulting, and harassing my husband. I always demand for money from him, and if he does not send that money, I will insult him, abuse him, and call him bad names. I don't like it. I regret most of the time after doing it, but I just find myself being abusive. I just find myself pushing him over the wall and saying very unpleasant things to him. Sometimes he bears with me, sometimes we break up and we make up after some time. I promise to be a better woman, but I always find myself just abusing him. I was raised by a single mother. I was the firstborn, I still am. And my mother married another man who was not my biological father. But this man was a drunkard. He always used to complain that my mother spends money on me rather than to buy food and other supplies for the rest of the family. My mother later forced me to take care of the younger siblings, the children of this man. I love my siblings, but I feel bad that their father treated me badly. Even right now, in my marriage, my mother is always demanding for money from me to support my siblings, and if I do not provide that money, she will not give me peace. I hate my mother, I hate my siblings, and I'm just angry. Please help me. Okay, Anita, there are three ways to underscore your situation. So first of all, I may not exhaustively answer or respond to you in this one single sitting, but then I will try my best to do so. So firstly, it's important to understand that identity development and personality development, self-image and self-concept and self-worth are things that are meant to be nurtured within the family unit. That the reason why in God's wisdom we are supposed to be brought up by both a father and a mother, primarily because we need the male influence, whether we are male or female, whether we're boys or girls. We need the mother influence, whether we are boys and girls. We need a safe environment which should be provided by both parents living harmoniously and creating a harmonious and peaceful environment where the child feels they are safe emotionally and physically, where their basic needs are provided for. Unfortunately, most of our parents have been products of an abusive past or are currently going through abuse anyway, and then it affects us two ways. Number one, it affects us because when we see violence happening in our family, when we see our fathers or our mothers being treated badly, it affects our emotional psyche, it affects the emotional person. The second way in which it affects us is that when our parents are bitter, when your mother or your father is bitter because their partner is not treating them right, or because they have unresolved issues, most at times they project that anger on the children. So a man would want sex with his wife, and when his wife turns down those sexual advances, he gets angry, and then the consequences of that anger is the cats will be kicked, the dogs will be kicked, the children will be abused and then be called bad names and all those kind of. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it is Mr. Leopard himself here, and just like I told you that I'll be showing you much more about Edda Gardens. This property is owned by the Almond Estate Company, and they have two phases. There is Edda Garden phase 1 and phase 2, and I'm right here with the boss himself, the CEO himself, Mr. Wachira. Just say hello to my people.
Hello, great people of God.
Yes, we are within Isinya, at a place called Birika. That's our junction point between Isinya and cesarean. On this hand, you go to Isinya, and we are right in the middle between Isinya and cesarean. So this direction you go to Isinya, and to that direction you go to cesarean.
Of Eda Gardens, a gated community concept. That is why we have put such a fence, concrete pole, chain link, all allowed the entire property, the 29 acres, properly fenced. We have also done powerful roads. You can see we have done a well-graded Maram road.
So these two are already a possible toxic environment in which you have been raised. That's one. Number two is that from birth, when a child is born up to about 2 years, that is when they learn the skill of trust or mistrust. And this is a product of whether they feel that the world is a safe place to be in or that the world is a dangerous place. So if a child is taken care of well, they are fed on time, they are massaged, they are carried safely, you play with the child and all that, the child feels safe, such that if a person approaches that particular child or opens the door to come where the child is, the child knows that that is good news coming. They know that a caregiver is coming. Mom is coming to give me milk, or my caregiver is coming to give me milk. My diapers are just about to be changed. I'm just about to be fed. Somebody's just about to carry me, to play with me, to carry me, and all those kind of things. But if that child is being mistreated, or if there is noise and banging and fighting in the environment, in the next room or in the same room, then the child gets to distrust. So mistrust is developed such that at any one given time they feel that the world is not a safe place to be. So their perspective is such that they always view the world with a pessimistic heart, with a pessimistic attitude. And I see you being a victim of that. So you really need a lot of therapy to be able to decipher that, to be able to go through or to go past that particular trauma. Then there are other things that happen through other stages. There is then the stage of dependence and independence. There is the stage of initiative. But then I want to go very quickly to about age 9, between age 9 and age 12. Children go through the stage of affirmation, whereby they start to learn and to discover where they have strengths in them, whether they have gifts in them, whether they are superior to somebody, even if it is superior to 1, 2, or 3 people, or they are inferior. And this is the time when they need a lot of affirmation from their parents, when they need to be affirmed that they look good, that they are good enough, when they need to be allowed and to be exposed to play, to compete, whether they are fighting, it's not a good thing, whether they are trying to do a sport, whether they are wrestling, whether they are just doing a fashion show, whether they are doing a musical show, they are trying a musical instrument, they are doing the competition in math, they're doing a competition in science, or whatever other thing that they could compete against. This is the time when a child's confidence in their self-image is most affected. And so I have a feeling that probably around this particular time, your parents are fighting, your stepfather is calling you bad names, and maybe your mother is not protecting you enough, and you are feeling alone, you're feeling dejected, and there is a lot of resentment and toxicity that comes with that. Now, what will happen is that eventually when you get married, you come with a certain expectation. So you come with a toxicity, and you also come with an expectation. So let me explain the expectation. The expectation is that as a teenager, that is when identity is resolved. So you make a decision, you get to know who is your father, who is your mother. Do you and sometimes you make that decision. So there are some people who don't even know their fathers, so they have to make a deliberate decision to settle in themselves as to whether they are taking up the identity of the culturalization of their mother, or where they grew up, maybe at their uncles, maybe with their foster father. You make that decision. But most people resolve their identity by discovering who their father is. So if you never had an opportunity to settle down in your heart who your father is, and maybe those questions are still lingering in your mind, then again, that is a third layer of toxicity or emptiness that you are carrying with you. And now when you get into a marriage, there are two things that are happening here. So number one, you have a lot of expectations from your husband, because you are wanting in love. You want somebody to love you. And so maybe you gave in to your husband because he was the first person to express what appeared to be like genuine love. So you gravitate towards them. So there are so many ladies, for example, or even men, for example, who end up marrying spouses that are not suitable to them, who are actually abusive even to them. Why? Because they craved so much for attention, they craved so much for validation, they craved so much for love. So the first person to express wins their heart and wins with a lot of power, with a lot of passion, with a lot of force. Why? Because the craving, the vacuum, the emptiness in you was so huge to the extent that when you find it, you just won't let it go. And I'm not saying that that is your kind of situation for your husband. I'm saying you are wanting, you are actually craving, but now because it is extreme, you are therefore demanding it from your husband. The second thing that is happening there is that now you are trying to find your identity in your husband. So the identity that you couldn't find with your father, you are now trying to find it with your husband. And so you are coming too much to your husband. That's number one. But then the question is, as you are demanding too much from your husband, how much are you giving to your husband? How much love are you giving? How much care are you giving to your husband? How much empathy are you offering to your husband? So because empathy has not been shown to you, because mercy has not been shown to you, because care and attention has not been shown to you, you are most likely deficient of these virtues. So you are not giving them to your husband. And what that means is that the more you demand from your husband, the more he is unable to meet your needs because they are exaggerated needs, and he is only human. He cannot fill up for the entire and the fullness of your life that has been checkered, for lack of a better word. So don't be offended by my choice word there. Now, the second thing that is happening here is that the more you push your husband, you are then affecting his self-esteem. You are affecting his ability to love you. You are tearing down the love, the care, and the passion that he has for you, because he's then starting to look at you as a bad person, as somebody who is not nice, as somebody who is not friendly. So the more unfriendly you become, the more unfriendly he becomes. The more unloving you become, the more rough he becomes towards you. And what that means is that he will start giving you back your toxicities. And so when you don't get what you are looking for, you get frustrated, you get angry, and that's why you're projecting it towards him. But now, when you push him too much, then he also fights back even without knowing. He also now moves from the caring guy to the careless guy, from the soft-spoken guy to be a bit rude to be able to fight for his space, from the guy who was tender to the tough and to the rough guy, because he has to survive somehow. I mean, it is Newton's third law of motion. For every force that you use, you get a rebuttal in equal measure. So the fact that he is coming back at you now make you even become more toxic and more abusive to him. That's what is happening. So it is you with your exaggerated demands and needs, and then him fighting back, and it can only get worse. You need to get therapy. You need to talk to a psychologist. You need to find help to overcome this trauma. Go for counseling therapy.
The prices are awesome. Option number one, you're making your payment within a duration of 30 days. Then at Kenya shillings 550. 550 within 30 days, you have your piece here, you have your price. If you are taking 3 months, 650,000, just imagine. What about an individual going for 6 months all the way to 1 year? 750,000. And how do you engage? A deposit of 10%, then equal installment for every month. Man, if you guys are a group, you come up as a group of 10. Maybe you are a chama, maybe you are a CBO, maybe you're just a group of friends. You pick 10 plots, you get 1 free. It never gets better than that.